Welcome to Wisdom and Wealth, a channel dedicated to helping those over 40 navigate the complexities of life with wisdom and financial savvy. Today, we're tackling a topic that many of us struggle with: the dangers of being too nice. It's a trap that can leave you drained, resentful, and ultimately, taken advantage of. So, stick around as we explore why being too nice backfires and how to cultivate genuine kindness, the kind that comes from a place of strength. If this sounds interesting, please click like or subscribe to our channel. We appreciate your help. You've likely been fed a narrative that equates niceness with virtue, believing that saying yes to every request and avoiding conflict at all costs is the key to a harmonious life. However, the truth is far more nuanced. Niceness, in this context, often stems from fear of rejection, fear of disapproval, fear of being perceived as difficult. It's a reactive behavior, driven by the desire to appease others and avoid uncomfortable situations. Remember the last time you agreed to something you really didn't want to do? Maybe you volunteered for an extra project at work, even though you were already overwhelmed. Or perhaps you listened patiently to a friend's endless venting session, without ever getting a chance to share your own concerns. These acts of niceness might seem harmless on the surface, but they come at a cost. They chip away at your self-respect, erode your boundaries, and breed resentment in the long run. The ancient masters understood this principle intimately. They recognized that true strength lies not in people-pleasing but in maintaining a balanced and unwavering sense of self. Kindness, on the other hand, springs from a wellspring of inner strength. It's a deliberate choice to give when you genuinely can, not an obligation born out of fear. Consider the difference between offering help to a struggling colleague because you have the capacity and genuinely want to support them versus reluctantly taking on their responsibilities because you're afraid of saying no. The first is an act of kindness, the second is an act of self-sabotage disguised as niceness. Being too nice is a recipe for disaster because it teaches others that your boundaries are negotiable. It invites them to take advantage of your willingness to sacrifice your own needs and desires. We will talk about fixing this in a later part of the video. Now, let's delve deeper into the distinction between niceness and kindness. Recall a time when someone asked you for a favor you truly didn't want to grant. Perhaps it was a coworker constantly dumping their workload on you, a friend who only called when they needed something, or a family member demanding your time when you had none left. What did you do? If you acquiesced simply to keep the peace, you weren't exhibiting kindness, you were exhibiting weakness. Every time you compromise your boundaries, you inadvertently teach people that your limits don't matter. You train them to expect your compliance, and they'll continue to push until you finally break. This isn't about assigning blame, it's about recognizing a pattern and understanding how your own actions contribute to it. The good news is that you have the power to change this pattern, starting today. The wisdom of the ancient masters offers a path forward. They didn't waste time on empty politeness or superficial pleasantries. They understood that true respect is earned not by constant agreement but by knowing when to stand your ground and say no. A tree that bends too far in the wind eventually snaps. A river that never pushes back against its banks becomes a stagnant swamp. And a person who consistently neglects their own needs becomes a mere shadow of themselves, depleted and exploited by those around them. How do you remedy this? First, it's essential to stop equating niceness with goodness. Being agreeable doesn't automatically make you a better person. In fact, it often makes you a more vulnerable target. Genuine kindness requires a backbone. It means saying, "I can't help you this time," without guilt. It means walking away from relationships that are purely transactional. And, crucially, it means recognizing that your energy is sacred and not everyone deserves access to it. This isn't about becoming harsh or unfeeling. It's about establishing clear boundaries and prioritizing your own well-being. The moment you start valuing your own peace, a profound shift occurs. Those who genuinely care about you will respect your newfound boundaries and adjust their behavior accordingly. Those who were merely using you will likely drift away, and that's not a loss, it's a necessary filtering process. The next time you feel that familiar urge to say yes when you truly mean no, take a moment to pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this out of fear, or am I doing this out of genuine kindness? If the answer is fear, take a step back. The world won't crumble if you disappoint someone, but you might start living a vastly more fulfilling life, finally respected, finally at peace, and finally free. This is a Buddhist doctrine channel, and if you find this content resonating with you, kindly give us a like and consider subscribing. Why does being too nice often attract toxic individuals into our lives? It's not a matter of bad luck or karma, it's a matter of energy. Predators, whether emotional, financial, or otherwise, possess a keen sense for weakness. They can detect hesitation, neediness, and desperation from miles away. If you're the type who always apologizes, avoids conflict at all costs, and readily bends to others' will, you're not just a target, you're a magnet. Think of it like this: in the natural world, a lion doesn't pursue the strongest buffalo in the herd, it targets the slowest, the weakest, the one least likely to put up a fight. Human dynamics aren't so different. The coworker who offloads extra tasks onto you, the friend who only calls when they need a favor, the partner who consistently disregards your boundaries, they're not necessarily inherently evil. They're acting in a way that you are enabling. This isn't about assigning blame, it's about cultivating awareness. When you're excessively nice, you send a subtle signal: my needs don't matter as much as yours. Consciously or unconsciously, people respond to that signal. They push further, ask for more, and then express shock when you finally reach your breaking point. Suddenly, you're labeled as the problem, accused of being selfish or having changed. But the truth is, you've simply stopped starving yourself to satiate their greed. The masters of old understood this dynamic implicitly. They knew that true strength isn't about aggression, it's about unwavering presence. A warrior doesn't need to shout to command respect. Their posture, their silence, the way they carry themselves all convey a powerful message: I am not prey. If you like this information, then like this video, and subscribe to our channel. You don't need to become cruel or confrontational to embody this presence. You simply need to be firm, consistent, and unshakable in your boundaries. Start with small steps. The next time someone asks for something that drains your energy, resist the urge to respond immediately. Say, let me think about it. That simple pause disrupts the pattern of automatic people-pleasing and gives you the space to ask yourself, do I really want to do this? If the answer is no, then say no. No elaborate excuses, no lengthy explanations, just a simple, clear no. Initially, this will feel uncomfortable. You might worry about angering others, losing their approval, or being perceived negatively. But here's the secret: the right people won't be deterred. Those who genuinely care about you will respect your boundaries and adjust their expectations. Those who were merely using you will likely disappear, and that's precisely the point. Your energy is finite, your time is precious. Guard them like a sacred treasure. When you do, the wrong people will naturally drift away, and the right ones will finally see you for who you truly are, a person worthy of respect and consideration. Now, let's explore a hidden cost of being too nice that often goes unaddressed: the suppression of anger. You've likely been taught that anger is a dangerous emotion, something to control, suppress, or lock away before it causes harm. But what if that's the opposite of the truth? What if anger isn't your enemy but a valuable teacher? Anger is like fire, it can destroy, but it can also purify. The key lies in how you channel it. If you suppress it, it burns inward, slowly poisoning your body, mind, and relationships. It morphs into resentment, bitterness, and passive-aggressive behaviors that inflict far more damage than honest expression ever could. Please subscribe for more content. But if you channel it constructively, anger becomes fuel, a source of power that propels you forward instead of consuming you from within. Think about the last time you swallowed your anger. Perhaps a coworker took credit for your work, or a loved one spoke to you disrespectfully. You bit your tongue, telling yourself it wasn't worth the fight. But later, alone, you replayed the situation in your mind, imagining what you should have said. That's not peace, that's slow suffocation. The ancient warriors didn't fear anger, they respected it. They recognized it as a signal, a flashing light illuminating where their boundaries had been crossed. A person who never feels anger isn't enlightened, they're numb. They've allowed themselves to be eroded to such a point that nothing matters anymore. However, there's a crucial distinction to make: anger isn't permission to lash out or inflict harm on others. That's not strength, that's a loss of control. True mastery involves feeling the fire of anger without allowing it to consume you. It means pausing, stepping back, and asking, what is this anger trying to show me? Perhaps it's revealing that someone has disrespected you one too many times. Maybe it's highlighting a place in your life where you've been excessively passive. Or perhaps it's simply the exhaustion of pretending everything is fine when it's not. Listen to the message, then act, not from rage, but from clarity. The next time anger arises, don't choke it down, don't let it explode. Sit with it. Allow it to burn away the lies you've been telling yourself. And when the smoke clears, move forward with purpose, speak your truth, and set things right. Anger is not your enemy, silence is. Saying no without guilt is essential. It's about you saying yes when you want to say no. You give when you have nothing left. You stretch yourself so thin that one day you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back. And why? Because somewhere along the way, you were taught that saying no is selfish, that setting boundaries is cruel, that your worth is measured by how much you can endure. But here's the truth: every time you say yes to something you don't want to do, you're saying no to yourself, to your peace, to your energy, to your life. A master doesn't explain, bargain, or twist himself into knots trying to make others comfortable at his own expense. When something doesn't serve him, he simply says no. No lengthy justifications, no apologies, no guilt. And because he doesn't waver, people learn to respect his word the first time. Think about how you typically say no. Do you soften it with apologies? I'm so sorry, I'd love to, but... Do you over-explain? It's just that I'm really busy right now. Every extra word is a crack in your resolve, giving the other person an opening to push, negotiate, and make you feel even worse for daring to prioritize yourself. So please hit like and subscribe to our channel. Try this instead: the next time you need to say no, say nothing at first. Just pause. Let the silence hang for a moment. Then, if you must speak, keep it simple: I can't do that. That doesn't work for me. No excuses, no drama, just the plain truth. Initially, this will feel unnatural. People might react with surprise or even frustration. They're accustomed to you bending and breaking. But stand firm, and something shifts. They adapt, stop asking so much, and, more importantly, you start believing in your own worth. Guilt isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong, it's a sign that you've been conditioned to believe your needs don't matter. Break that conditioning. Say no, not with anger or fear, but with the quiet certainty of a person who knows their own value. The world will try to convince you otherwise, labeling you as cold, selfish, or unkind. Let it. The right people, the ones who truly care, will understand. The others were never yours to keep. Your energy is not infinite, so guard it like the sacred thing it is. Say no, not because you don't care, but because you finally embrace the warrior's mindset. Firmness without cruelty is essential. There's a profound strength in knowing precisely where you stand, not in anger or aggression, but in absolute certainty. This is the way of water, soft to the touch, yet capable of carving through mountains over time. This is the balance you must find: to stand firm without becoming hardened, to hold your ground without needing to push others down. Most people mistake loudness for strength, believing that the one who shouts the loudest, fights the dirtiest, and demands the most aggressively is the strongest. But true strength requires no performance, it needs no audience. It simply is, like an ancient tree that needs no permission to grow tall, like a mountain that doesn't argue about its right to exist. This is the energy you must cultivate, the unshakable presence that comes from knowing your worth isn't up for debate. Think about times you've compromised in the past, softened your no to a maybe, or allowed just one more small exception that became a floodgate. Each time, you weren't just giving away that single moment, you were eroding the foundation of your self-respect. The warrior understands this. They know that every negotiation of their boundaries is a step backward, every justification of their needs is wasted energy. Here's what most people miss: firmness doesn't require meanness. You don't need to insult to be respected, you don't need to hurt others to protect yourself. The most powerful masters speak few words, but each one carries weight. They don't explain themselves endlessly or bargain with their peace. They simply state what is and what isn't, then let their actions follow. Practice this today. In your next conversation where you'd normally bend, stand straight, not with aggression, but with quiet certainty. Speak less, but mean every word. You'll find something remarkable happens: people begin to listen differently. They lean in rather than push against, because the world responds to those who respond to themselves first. This isn't about controlling others, it's about governing yourself. When you stop the internal debate about whether you deserve to take up space, the external battles disappear. People will treat you exactly as you teach them to. Show them through unwavering action where your lines are drawn, and watch how rarely they need to be tested. The 3-second rule for boundaries can help you. Your greatest weakness isn't your inability to say no, it's how quickly you say yes. That instant agreement, that automatic compliance, that reflexive people-pleasing that happens before you've even consulted yourself, this is what drains you. This is what leaves you exhausted, resentful, and wondering how you ended up here again. But there's a simple remedy, a space between request and response where your true answer can emerge. The 3-second rule is this: when asked for your time, energy, or resources, pause and count silently. 1, 2, 3. In that brief window, something miraculous happens. You remember you have a choice. The autopilot disengages, the people-pleasing reflexes subside. In that space, your authentic response has room to surface. Most people never create this space. They're so conditioned to immediate compliance that they've lost touch with their own desires. Like a leaf blown by every wind, they move whichever way the pressure comes from. But you are not a leaf, you are the tree, rooted, growing, deciding which winds will move you and which will pass by unchanged. Practice this today. The next request that comes your way, no matter how small, give yourself those 3 seconds. Notice the immediate urge to say yes, and feel the discomfort of pausing. Then decide, not from fear of their reaction, but from knowledge of your capacity. You'll be shocked at how often your genuine answer isn't the automatic yes you've been trained to give. This isn't about becoming selfish, it's about becoming conscious. Every time you pause, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Every time you choose rather than comply, you strengthen your ability to show up authentically in the world. The people who matter won't fear your pause, they'll respect it. Those who demand instant compliance were never your allies to begin with. Start small, a 3-second pause before answering a text, a breath before agreeing to a favor. These tiny moments of awareness accumulate into something transformative, the ability to move through the world, not as a puppet pulled by others' strings, but as a sovereign being, choosing each step with intention. The warrior knows their greatest power lies not in their sword but in their ability to choose when to draw it. Your power lies not in your ability to serve all demands, but in your wisdom to know which ones align with your path. 3 seconds is all it takes to remember that. 3 seconds is all it takes to begin changing everything. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Why do people test your limits and how to stop it? People will always test where your boundaries lie, not because they're evil, but because it's human nature to seek the edges of what's possible. Like water finding cracks in a dam, people will naturally probe for weaknesses in your resolve. The problem isn't that they test, the problem is how often we fail the test without even realizing it's happening. Every time you let a rude comment slide, laugh off disrespect, or make excuses for someone's poor behavior, you're not keeping the peace, you're drawing a map for how they can treat you in the future. The first offense is never the problem, it's the 100th offense that breaks you. And by then, when you finally react with the anger that's been building for months, you're labeled as unreasonable. You never had a problem with it before, they'll say, and they'll be right, that's exactly the problem. The solution isn't to wait until you're full of rage, the solution is to address the first transgression calmly, clearly, and immediately, not with emotion, but with simple truth. When someone speaks to you disrespectfully, a simple, "that tone isn't necessary," stops the pattern before it begins. When someone pushes past your stated boundaries, a quiet, "I already answered that," teaches them you mean what you say. This isn't about being harsh or confrontational, it's about being consistent. Most boundary violations start small, a slightly demanding request, a mildly disrespectful comment, a small push against your stated limits. These are tests, and when you let them pass, the tests get bigger. When you respond firmly to the small things, you rarely need to deal with the big ones. Think of training any intelligent creature, a dog, a horse, a child. The correction must come immediately after the unwanted behavior, not hours later when your frustration boils over. The same applies to all human interactions, the moment matters. Your response in that moment sets the pattern for everything that follows. The people who respect you will adjust immediately when you gently correct them. Those who argue or make you feel guilty for asserting basic respect were never going to honor your boundaries anyway. This isn't loss, it's filtration. It's better to discover someone's unwillingness to respect you early when the stakes are small than after you've invested years in the relationship. I recommend you like and subscribe for more videos. Start today. The next small violation, the backhanded compliment, the guilt trip, the pushy request, address it, not tomorrow, not when it happens again, but now, calmly and without apology. Watch how quickly people learn where your lines are drawn when you consistently show them where those lines exist. The art of strategic silence is very important. Most people fear silence and rush to fill empty spaces with words, explanations, and justifications. This is weakness disguised as conversation. The master knows that silence isn't emptiness, it's the most powerful space of all. In silence, truth reveals itself. In silence, intentions become clear. In silence, you maintain control while others lose it by talking too much. Think about every time you've over-explained yourself, talked just to ease tension, or given away your power by speaking when saying nothing would have served you better. Now think of the people who command respect without demanding it and how often they're comfortable sitting in silence while others squirm. This is no accident. Strategic silence works because it reverses the normal power dynamic. When someone makes an unreasonable request and you immediately respond, you're playing on their field. When you pause and let their words hang in the air, you create space where none existed. In that space, several things happen. They often reveal more than intended, they frequently backtrack or modify their request, and they always become more aware of your presence and power. Practice this today. The next time someone asks something of you that feels off, don't answer immediately. Look at them, breathe, and count to 3 in your head. Notice how often they start talking again, filling the silence with concessions or explanations you didn't even ask for. This is the power of silence. It makes people negotiate with themselves before you've said a word. Silence also serves as protection. Most people give away too much information too quickly, explaining their position before understanding the other person's intentions. The master listens first and speaks last. When confronted or challenged, a simple, "I'll consider that," or "interesting perspective," gives you time to think while revealing nothing. The less you say, the less can be used against you. This isn't about being cold or manipulative, it's about recognizing that words have weight and careless speech erodes your position. Every unnecessary explanation is a crack in your foundation, and every rushed answer is a potential regret. Silence allows you to respond from wisdom rather than react from emotion. Begin with small silences, pauses before answering questions, resisting the urge to fill conversational gaps. Notice how uncomfortable silence makes others and how that discomfort often works in your favor. As you practice, you'll find silence becomes not just a tool, but a refuge, a place of power where you're never rushed into decisions or pressured into positions you don't want to hold. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. True strength often whispers, and sometimes it says nothing at all. Rebuilding self-respect after years of people-pleasing starts with the smallest of actions, saying no when you've always said yes. That first refusal will feel uncomfortable, like a muscle atrophied from disuse being asked to work again. The discomfort isn't a sign you're doing something wrong, it's proof you're doing something right. That tightness in your chest when you decline an unreasonable request, that's not fear, it's the death rattle of your old, compliant self, making way for someone stronger. People-pleasing is an addiction, and like any addiction, breaking free requires facing withdrawal symptoms head-on. The anxiety that comes with setting boundaries isn't a warning to stop, it's the final resistance of a dying habit. Each time you withstand that discomfort, you're rewiring your nervous system to associate self-respect with safety rather than danger. What feels like risk today will feel like second nature tomorrow if you persist. Start with the smallest possible no. Decline that extra task at work that isn't your responsibility. Tell the pushy salesperson you're not interested without softening it with excuses. Say you can't make it to a social event without inventing an elaborate reason why. These tiny acts of self-assertion are like seeds, insignificant in the moment, but containing the blueprint for an unshakable tree of self-respect that will grow over time if nurtured. Notice what happens after you say no. The world doesn't end, and people don't hate you. In most cases, they barely react. The catastrophic outcomes you feared exist only in your imagination, fed by years of conditioning that taught you compliance equals safety. The truth is, people respect those who respect themselves. The more you demonstrate you won't be taken for granted, the less others will try to take from you. This transformation happens gradually through daily practice. Each time you honor your own needs over someone else's convenience, you deposit strength into your emotional bank account. Over time, these small deposits compound into unshakable self-worth. You'll know the change is real when you start feeling the discomfort before saying yes rather than before saying no, when the idea of betraying yourself becomes more painful than the temporary awkwardness of asserting your boundaries. The people who truly care about you will adjust to this new version of you. Those who only valued your compliance will fade away. This isn't loss, it's purification. Your circle may become smaller, but its quality will increase dramatically. You'll attract people who respect strength rather than exploit weakness, who value authenticity over flattery. Remember, every master was once a beginner. The warrior you admire for his unshakable presence didn't start that way. He built it one small act of courage at a time. Your journey is no different. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. The rest will follow. The ultimate test is asking, would the Shaolin monk tolerate that? There exists a simple question that cuts through all confusion about boundaries and self-respect. Would a warrior of old tolerate this? When faced with demands on your time, energy, or peace, ask this, and the answer will. I'll always guide you. The ancient masters didn't achieve legendary discipline by accommodating every request. They became who they were by knowing exactly what to allow into their sacred space and what to keep out. Your life is your temple. Every yes you say is an offering at its altar, and every commitment you make tends its grounds. Ask yourself, are you filling your temple with worthy offerings or allowing it to be littered with the trash of other people's demands? The warrior protects what's sacred, not through aggression, but through unwavering discernment about what deserves entry. Apply this test next time you're pressured to sacrifice your well-being for someone else's convenience. When asked to work late unnecessarily, would a warrior abandon his training for this? When guilt into attending an event you don't want to go to, would a master interrupt his meditation for this? When tempted to engage in pointless conflict, would a sage waste his energy on this? The clarity will shock you. Modern life has trained us to tolerate what no self-respecting warrior would ever allow: constant interruptions, chronic overcommitment, and relationships that drain rather than nourish. We've normalized disrespect in the name of politeness and accepted exhaustion as the price of belonging. The ancient ways offer a different path, one where your energy is sacred, your focus is unbroken, and your presence is earned rather than given freely to all. This isn't about recreating some mythical past but about applying timeless principles to modern problems. The warrior monks didn't have to deal with social media notifications or overflowing inboxes, but they understood the fundamental truth that attention is life's most precious currency. Every distraction you allow and every demand you accept is a withdrawal from your finite reserves of focus and energy. Begin applying this test today. Before automatically saying yes to another commitment, pause and ask the question. You'll quickly notice how much of what you tolerate is beneath your dignity as someone seeking mastery over their life, not the endless chasing of approval, but the quiet certainty of self-possession. Some will call this selfish. Let them. The same people calling you selfish are usually the ones most eager to spend your time and energy on their priorities. True selfishness is demanding others sacrifice themselves for your convenience. Healthy self-respect is simply recognizing that your life belongs to you first. The warrior's path isn't about accumulating more but about protecting what's essential, not about adding armor, but about removing vulnerabilities. Each time you ask, would a warrior tolerate that, and act on the answer, you're not just making a better decision in the moment, you're sculpting yourself into someone for whom such decisions become second nature. Your temple gates stand open by default in a world that will happily walk in and take whatever it wants. The question isn't whether you should guard them, it's whether you'll start today or wait until there's nothing left worth protecting. The warrior knows now is always the right time to defend what matters. Being nice won't protect you, balance will. Stop confusing kindness with weakness. The world doesn't reward saints. Remember to like and subscribe.